Hey futards! Today we're joined by Dode, one of the first contributors of the metadao. We talk about his journey in crypto, his contribution to the metadao, how the initial UI was built, the proposal that marked him, and his thought on what can be built on top of futarchy. Hey Dode, how are you?
Hi, Nico. I'm fine, and you?
Good, good. So Dode is an awesome futard. He was one of the first contributors to the metadao. Today we're going to hear his backstory. So Dode, who are you?
So, well, as you said, I'm Dode for Hydrox, or Dode for short, and I'm a French software engineer, and that joined the metadao really early on. I think I was among the first people to join. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice. So how did you come to crypto, and what were you doing before crypto?
So I joined crypto just before crypto. I was finishing my master's degree, engineering diploma on machine learning. And at that time, I was hesitating between joining startups or doing a PhD, and I ended up doing a bit of both. And during my time at the laboratory, one of my colleagues started getting really interested in crypto. So at that time, I really did not know what it was. I only heard about the 2017 Bitcoin craze and all the stuff, but was really looking at it from long distance. So the fact that my colleague got interested in it, and we also had some professors talking about it, I started digging into it. And well, around the time of the COVID, I had some spare money, some savings I wanted to put somewhere. And like having heard so much about crypto from my colleague and the professors and so on, I just naturally went to it to spend some money, to invest some money. And that's, I think, how I really got into crypto. The first interaction I had with crypto was around the time of COVID. And well, after that, I don't know how classic my approach was, but I felt like Bitcoin was, I don't know, too was consuming too much energy, and was not really into this proof of work. I started looking into alternatives, fell into Cosmos, because Binance was shielding some Cosmos chain, especially one named Kava, and that's where I got my first hands-on, let's say, DeFi experience. Started experimenting with Cosmos as well. So as a technical person, I like to try the technical parts of the things I do, and the Cosmos SDK was quite nice for that because you could like spin up a whole chain in a few commands, which was really nice. I started building an app that I think it's interesting, but one of the first crypto project I tried to do, it was still a toy project at the time, but still was some kind of DAO, a DAO, where user could use the native token of the chain to mint yes and no token and exchange them to decide what propositions would pass or not. So in a way, it was already similar in some ideas compared to futarchy, although it was still a complete toy project. The tokenomics were like a mess, and the project itself was a mess. But just to say that, I've been interested in DAOs, and I think like markets are a great facilitator, and I've had this for a long time. Never really knew how to formulate it or what to do with it, but I think that's maybe like explain why I got interested in metadao so early on. But like fast forward a few months, I abandoned Cosmos because I feel like building on Cosmos is too complicated because you need to bootstrap validators. So I went on to use the BNB chain, fell down the degen rabbit hole at that time. But after a few months of like craze around the BNB and EVM, the BNB, the asset went skyrocketing. Usage of the BNB also went very high, and we ended up with transaction fees that were just way too high for my liking. And so I looked for cheaper alternatives at that time, and that's where I first found Solana, which was really cheap. It was still very, very early at that time. There was like mostly weird NFT projects, and that was barely it. Trading NFTs on Solana. But I stuck around, spent more time learning, and especially trying to create an on-chain program on Solana and stuff like that, and ended up. I've been in crypto. I've been in Solana at least ever since. I spent some time trying out new projects left and right, but spent most of my time in Solana since then.
Nice. How was it to build in Solana compared to today, like the state of the tooling and everything?
My personal opinion on that, at least, is that the beginning of it was awful. Like at the very start, there was like I don't know, 3 good tutorials that explain how to create programs and build apps on Solana. I think one by Paul X or something like that, a Medium post, which was kind of exhaustive, but also like there are so many questions left and so many things to solve. And when Anchor, the Anchor SDK came out, it really felt to me like a huge positive change for Solana, because you had an experience that was much closer to what you had with Truffle at the time. And even though I think now that Anchor is not the perfect solution, and I think I've seen there has been a lot of innovation recently. Like at the time when it came out, Anchor was really game-changing to me. And the explorers also were not as nice as they are right now. Solana really went a long way since 2021, I think, and that's I think it's just getting started.
Nice. And so, did you contribute to any particular project on Solana, or you just build your own?
I mostly spent I spent most of my time doing like toy project on my side, just trying to learn how it works, how to build stuff, and because I want to build on the ideas that I have, but I also try to contribute to as many projects as I could, actually. Like most of the time when I spent some time trying to trade NFTs, for example, and most of the time when I join a community, I offer my help in developing something, trying to build. It could be like I did something, for example, for Solsteads, which was an NFT project, trying to build a gallery for the project, trying to build toolings and data visualization. Just that as a technical person that likes to create stuff, I feel like when I like something, I want to just give it what I can do, provide it with contribute with some of my skills. But I've never made large contributions to any project, I think, or at least not before metadao. So
Okay,
mostly
understood.
playing around and discovering crypto, learning more, and that's it, learning all the time.
Nice. And so, how did you found metadao after?
Yeah, so as I said, so trying to find technical content because that's what I like. And I think it was around like a few months after the FTX crash. Like at that time, Solana was really feeling like a wasteland, a dead place. Even though there was some nice technical progress, I don't know, you had compressed NFTs that went out a few around that time, and there were some innovations around token 22, for example, as well. So there were still stuff going on, especially on the technical side, but I guess the more retail aspects, like the overall ambience felt a bit dead, but technical contributors were still there, and that's around the time I found on Twitter I found the Prophet, so some crypto anon that talks about technical stuff. At that time, he was building something for like SPL extension for Bankrun, which is a dev tool that's supposed to make testing much faster. Because in Anchor, you need to, whenever you run tests, you need to spin up a full validator local validator, local net to run the test against. And Bankrun was supposed to make that much lighter, which is great because you could spend minutes just running tests. So in the context of Solana being dead, and I see this Anon posting cool technical stuff, that was an instant follow for me, and just started interacting, talking with him, and that's, I think sometime later he started talking about building a futarchy, which I had heard about. The concept, at least, of futarchy was not completely new to me, but that always seemed like a cool experiment. It was about DAOs, which is something that feels interesting to me. So I instantly said, I think I want to join. When is it released? Tell us more. At first, it was not completely ready. I think Prophet was waiting for the program to be finished before opening the gates, the floodgates. But well, soon enough, that was the case. And so the Discord was created. I instantly joined the Discord and tried to, again, as usual, when I find something that I like, I just try to contribute in any way I could. So at first I wanted to do the on-chain programming, but I saw that Prophet was really mastering it more than I could. So I left that task to him and thought
maybe I could build something else. And in this case, I think that since the on-chain program was ready, I started building a UI, some way to interact with the program that was published on GitHub. And that's for me, that was the first instance. Immediately after I arrived in the Discord, immediately after I learned about futarchy, I started working on the UI. I think that was the beginning of fall 2023, I believe.
Did you came to Breakpoint that year?
No, I very much hesitated, and I was doing a conference just a few hours away, but the conference was at the exact same dates, most of the same dates as Breakpoint, so I couldn't. And this year it's in Singapore, and and it's a bit far away from home, so I'm not sure I will be there this time again. But I really thought about it in 2023.
Okay, I'm asking because most of the people who were active, at least some of them, they met at Breakpoint, so I was curious. So you started to build the UI because, for context, the Prophet, he made a very simple UI because he's much more like a blockchain developer or backend developer than a front-end developer. So the UI he provided was very barren. And I think Prophet, he has been working on the futarchy for a while, and he really wanted to test it out. So there was no time to and there is a saying that if you're proud of the product you launch too late. So he launched like that, and the UI was built by you, and then you created a repo. And I think maybe a few other people created a repo, and quickly some people joined you, right? Can you tell us how it happened? Because there was it kind of emerged out of the community. It started by you, but quickly joined by many other people, right?
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, so indeed, I think I feel like Prophet really wanted to own to test it out end to end and provide the right experience that is indeed more focused on the on-chain programming. But he started to do UI, and I think at the time he was also starting to, for example, create an XNFT as the UI, and also then spend some time creating the UI like a standard web UI. And I just felt that I could help by creating my own or doing it differently. So that's how it started. At first, I was, I guess you could say, stealthy in the sense that I built the first layouts, trying to do the first needed interactions. But then I published it, and the Prophet approved in a way, and that's when it started to the rest of the community started to converge on this UI in particular, the one that I started, And from there, it was like really a community effort. Like it was, I've never had that in the context of crypto, I think, before. Most of the time I worked on something, and even if it was used, it was mostly me doing the development. Here, like some nights, on some weekend nights, for example, I was building the UI, adding features, fixing bugs and stuff, going to bed, waking up to like sometimes completely new UI, not completely new, but like so much changed. It was so much better. People were fixing stuff left and right, posting IDs, just testing the UI, using the thing, because everybody wanted to like try out futarchy directly, and like the UI being the gateway in a way to futarchy, really made it something that the community just like took in its own hands, I think.
Yeah,
So,
that was really cool the way it kind of emerged. I think that especially in the very beginning of the project, there was a ton of excitement because for a lot of people, futarchy was a totally new concept. It's been around and discussed in crypto by many people, but I think it was still like not known by many. Like myself included, before Prophet, I never, even though I've been in crypto for a while, I never heard about futarchy. And so, like, because it's a new kind of radical concept and governance has been struggling so much to deliver efficiency, let's say, people were really excited. And I think also Prophet didn't like step in too much. Like he kind of leaned back to let people come and try to take ownership and stuff, which allow people to start. Like he didn't say, okay, like this is how it's gonna work on everything. So he let some contributor just come and do stuff. And so that was cool because the kind of community formed, and they were like the people were super excited, but who had no bandwidth, no time to contribute. And there were some like you or others who had a bit of time and they started to build stuff. So can you explain us who was working on the UI with you at the time?
I don't have the exact list of contributors. I think, of course, like Mari and Alok spent some quite, like, I think were the biggest contributors.
How it happened? Like you had issues on GitHub that were opened by random people or by Nalok who had because I think Nalok also I think for him it was that he started to take your UI and run it locally with changes for him to be able to market make or stuff.
Yeah.
and so at some point he said, okay, I'm gonna merge some of those local change, maybe that can help other people. Can you explain how it kind of? Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. I think that's how I approached the project at large, I'd say, and how Nalok did it. Is just that we want to use, like, the program is on chain, already available on mainnet. You can use it, but there's no easy, convenient interface to access it. And so we just started building the features that we wanted to see. And I think that was also for the case for Nalok. I think that he tried to use the story goes that he tried to use the UI and placed an order that he could not cancel, and then started developing the UI because he wanted to add the canceling feature. So that was really in a way we were manifesting what we wanted to see, and like nobody was stopping us from doing anything. As you said, there was this let's say culture or intention of Prophet to let the community take control, and I think that's like what really made metadao this grassroots community, was that there was no, even though there was like Prophet was clearly the founder and he had like really good knowledge about futarchy, anybody could still come in and propose, suggest an ID, people could build on it, and that's like pretty much what happened with the UI. I mean, in a way, I had some features in mind, but like I at first I wanted to have like a clear, simple interface where you could vote like yes or no, for example, and others wanted an order book, and I think mostly Nalok ended up implementing the order book or large parts of it, and stuff were just getting built because people wanted it. But that's for the UI. But I think overall, the whole community was like that. Like, suggesting ideas, talking about it, iterating on these ideas, some just left aside, maybe for later use. Some gave rise to like actual stuff. I don't know, like Dune dashboard or some analytics and stuff like that. And yeah, that was really an interesting period for me. Challenging also because, as I said, like I have other activities beside. But yeah, it was really addictive in a way to take part of this
Nice.
moment in time.
And so we had the first proposal that were coming in, and each proposal, the UI was a bit different. In the beginning, it was also tricky because of all the kind of cranking shenanigans and other stuff like that are needed to make it work. What did you thought about the first proposal, and what was the stuff you had to build in to make it a good UI?
Well, I think that's also that, and like the one of the issue in a way. I'm not sure it should be called an issue, but the fact that we were using an order book at the time had some like quirks coming with it. Like you said, you needed to crank the market. You needed to manage every order, cancel, and a lot of things that many trading UI on Solana hide from the user. But because it was so young, because it was also a community effort, a lot of the quirks were visible and apparent for users, which may have made the UI like less friendly. And I think that's also one of the changes in the recent in the new UI, like the one that is usable right now. Like it's so much easier to use, and I think it's maybe in part because it uses, I believe, an AMM in not the other book. But how the UI came to be better, I think it's again the same answer. Like people wanted something, felt like a feature was needed, and they just like either suggested it and I implemented, or somebody else took care of the implementation, and it just like moved along, keep the ball rolling, you know.
Yeah, because like the new UI, for context, it's been built over 2 months, and kind of like Solana and Ethereum, when we built the second UI, we already had all the lessons from the first UI, and we already knew what we wanted the product to look like. It was also funded, so it was not like a contributor that were coming in on their free time and building a little bit here and there. It was more kind of professional proposal that was issued to build this, and it was still like Dialog still leaned a lot on the community and tried to pull talent from the community to build this new UI. But it would have never been built if there was not the first UI, because we had maybe 15 or 16 proposals on the first UI, which allow to prove futarchy, to structure the DAO, to get some funds, and now we have the second UI. But the first UI was really what allowed us to get there. Like it was a very important piece. I think now most people that will join the project will probably never have seen it. But yeah, in the history of the metadao, I think it played a big role. And same for Prophet or other people. I think it also shows how excited, because people can talk a lot on Twitter, but that's not a concrete contribution or investment on time. That matters, of course, but that's not the same as seeing your community start to develop something on your project that like you didn't ask anything really, and they just came and they just did shit, and that must have been super motivating for him too, I think. And that's also
it was for all of us actually, seeing this effervescence, like the constant bubbling of ideas, and like again these ideas manifesting into something concrete felt like really exciting. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt that. Yes, the first UI was an important step, I think, as well. It kind of acted as an MVP for futarchy in a way. It kind of validated the concept, allowed people to get their hands on futarchy, understand how it works. Like for example, I think I remember Ben Hawkins during Prop 6 feeling like it's alive, you know. Like using the protocol, using the futarchy, seeing it work as intended, or not intended in this case. Like many surprises, a lot of lessons learned during like using this first UI and the first steps of futarchy. That was a rich period full of lessons, great lessons.
Yeah, completely. And by the way, since you're speaking about it, so the proposal 6 was a big one. Do you remember from all the proposal? I think we had the first was Marinade, then we had one to migrate the contract, one with Saber, and there was the RAR proposal for a spot market. There was Joe proposal for an MM. There was Ben proposal. There were a few OTC proposal. I think one from Pantera, one for. I think Ben did another one for liquidity. Then there was the Dutch auction one. There was Agrippa proposal for multi-proposal. There was a proposal to burn the meta to like have a FDV closer to the market cap. There was the Colosseum one, the futarchy as a service one, the benevolent dictator one. They were like a ton of proposals. Which one were the one that you traded the most?
Obvious to me, it was clearly proposal 6. Like no questions asked. The one that I traded most was this one. Because I think it really represents like at least it shows how there was like in a way of, I don't know, difference between like there was really a before and an after proposal 6, I believe, because even though the community was already there and like there were many like big brain futards on the Discord before proposal 6, and we like as we said, we had this like community effort to build stuff and I push out ideas. Proposal 6 really brought a lot of attention to metadao. So I was not part of it, but I think it's largely due to Mountain DAO. So Prophet was there, I think in Nalak as well, and they managed to evangelize futarchy to many Solana members, Solana users. And so the proposal got a lot of attention, but looking at it from afar, I just saw like it felt like a really bad deal for the DAO when I read it, like trying to buy a lot of meta below market price just after we did a raise at a higher price than the raise. It felt like it was, when I first saw the proposal, it was obvious to me that it would fail. So I first tried to like trade in this with this bias in mind, let's say, without much effect, because like my pockets are not as deep as Ben Hawkins. But and well, again, a valuable lesson I learned is like I tried more and more to push the decision in my favor, which was like, no, this proposal should fail, up until the point where I had like no meta left. So I was one of the I was one of the person who received a large allocation of meta initially, and I literally traded all of it, and some more that I bought along the way, and some USDC that I had. I traded everything in the direction of like, this proposal should fail, and it was far from enough to have an actual impact on the proposal. And so at the time, I was like, I had really mixed feelings about this, because on one hand, I felt like I just got humbled by the market. And I think Nalak in the Discord at the time said something like, when you're trying to influence the market too much, well, you just learn your lesson and buy back at a higher price. And I felt like that was maybe the situation I was going to find myself in. But in this context, like the higher price we were talking about, like Meta went from, I think, somewhere around like $50 for one token to 1,000 in a matter of a few days. So that was a much higher price. But at the same time, so that was kind of saddening, because I felt like I lost all the tokens I had in a way, like most of it, so that people were not actually totally sharing my opinion on this proposal. So it felt a bit like depressing. I was wondering, like, what have I done? It's too late. You know, it's blockchain. You can't undo things. Not once they've been finalized on chain. But happily, in a way, at least for me, like again, a lot of attention
caught by metadao. People eventually agreed with me and thought like this should not pass. And I ended up like getting back all the tokens I had. But yeah, definitely my most traded proposal by far taught me the lesson, but that maybe I should try less to influence the market when I not like you really need conviction, strong conviction to like place bets on the futarchy. That's also what that's also the value proposition of futarchy. You know, like if you have strong beliefs, you can express them through the markets, but those that are just trying to move the market around may get punished or humbled by the market.
Yeah, I think what Nalok said was markets are brutal and they don't take prisoners, and, and it's very true. Yeah, okay. When I asked the proposal question, I maybe should say any proposal but proposal 6, because I think proposal 6 was for everybody probably the most traded. Because it was it kind of felt almost existential to the DAO, and it really had a great outcome, because at the time I remember a few people were thinking about passing a stupid proposal. I think Nalok wanted to pass a proposal that dilute 90% of the. He wanted to see it fail, proposal, to prove that the model worked. Because till then, we only rubber stamp proposal because it was like a good proposal. People were like proposing things to move the project forward, and the market largely agreed. And this one was the best one to fail, because it showed that the collective interest was and maybe collective interest is not the right word, but anyway, that was a almost existential and very also emotional proposal for a lot of people. So was there any other one that you also heavily traded?
Honestly, that after proposal 6, I really reduced the amount of trading I did. Like before that, I was trading more, mainly because I wanted to try to test the UI, see that everything was going well. After that point, I felt like I discovered the attachment I had to, maybe it's a bad idea, but the attachment I had to my meta tokens, and did not want to risk them anymore, or not at this price. So I really reduced the amount of trading I did. I don't think of myself as a good trader. And I'm like, that's not my expertise. Again, I feel like I'm a technical person, and that's what I like to do. That's where I think I'm best at. So I haven't traded like later proposals as much as I did for proposal 6. Still trying to take part in as many proposals as I can, especially now with the new UI. I'm trying. I did not manage to do it every time, but I'm trying to trade every proposal. But often I'm just like barely moving the needle on those. It's just like trying things, not trying things, but briefly like stating my bias or my opinion on the matter, not following too much. So yeah, it kind of reduce the amount of trading.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, some people are more traders, and some people are more builders, and I think that was one of the fun things. Also, not fun is not the right word, but this idea that the DAO would be divided between the entrepreneurs who write proposal and build teams, the cyber agent who work and build and contribute to the DAO, and the analyst who trade the market and make them efficient and decide where to allocate the resources. And so it's best to know what you like to do or what you're good at doing, and sometimes not because and yeah, in futarchy trading, I mean, I understand what you mean by feeling attached to your token, because if you like the project, you want to some people, it's not all the people, but some people they like to buy stuff that they care about and that they are aligned with, and so they feel attached to their bags, kind of, which is from a trader perspective a bad idea. You should always be neutral, but we are humans, and I think everybody more or less has some attachment. Some people a lot more than others, but yeah. Anyway, you also wrote a great article. It was in French, so for people who you probably cannot read it, or you can ask GPT to translate, but it was great. I read it. can you explain a little bit what you meant with parrotfi, the scenario if it was a futarchy? First, what happened with parrotfi in Solana, and then what would have happened if it was a futarchy, which you explain in the article?
Yeah, so parrotfi is just one example of something that happened so many times over and over in crypto in general. In this specific case, there's this DAO, parrotfi, that says, so the Parrot is, I think, a collateral deposition protocol, something like a DAI or stuff like that. So you deposit assets and borrow a stable coin. And they wanted the DAO, parrotfi DAO wanted to like wrap up the project, stop or I think start over in a new context. The details of this don't really matter. The thing is that they had a huge treasury. I think in the case of parrotfi, it was something around like 70 millions of dollars, which is a lot of money. Most of it was technically owned by the shareholders and token holders in this case. But since the few team members had the majority of the tokens, they could vote anything they wanted. And what they decided to do was to like take the treasury, give it to themselves, and just leave like token holders naked in a way, which is like I think maybe in some jurisdiction it's not even legal, but my opinion is that this kind of scenarios should never happen that way. And what futarchy could have done in this context is that it would at least have allowed smaller token holders to exit at the price that was at a price that seemed fair, at least, or representative of the treasury that they would lose if the proposal passes. And they might even they might even like manage to prevent the proposal from passing and taking back control of the DAO and salvaging the assets or kick back the project, like reboot the project or anything. But like they were not given a chance to say otherwise, because the governance mechanism that parrotfi used, which is the basic one token, one vote, this process just failed token holders. So futarchy in a way is like there's no secret solution to governance. Governance is complicated. Like you need to make people agree and stuff like that. But with the futarchy, at least, it enables the possibility for smaller holders to or at least it forces big holders to like express their bias through markets, and allowing smaller holders to take advantage of the bias they introduce to exit at a favorable price in a way. So at least they would not be left with useless tokens. Either they would keep their tokens and the proposal would not pass and they keep the treasury, or they get a favorable exit, get USDC in exchange, and leave the treasury assets to the team after they've paid like so much money that it would probably almost equal the amount of money that was in the treasury. I hope this explanation is clear. I invite you to read the article if that was not the case. Probably that a GPT translator would do a great job at translating the
text. So it's kind of if they want to force something to pass, they are forced to buy you out. So let's say that the proposal was to spend money on yachts and watches. They have to buy you out to do that. So because we often talk about futarchy and how it's a great mechanism to price if a proposal has true value or not, but there is a lot of other property that futarchy has. For example, to protect token holders and buy them out at a fair price if you want the proposal to pass and you want to manipulate the market is a very interesting property, and I think one that should make people wish the governance model of most DAO were a futarchy. That would stop a lot of problem in the ecosystem. There is many other stuff, like for example, you incentivize people to go trade in DAO that they probably would not have discovered, because you can start to view governance as a poly market of what's plus CV or minus CV as proposal. So you could have someone like you, for example, who don't trade too much on some proposal, but you're a developer, and so if you see a proposal somewhere on a project and there is a big spread between the pass and fail market, maybe you can check the contract and if you see that there is a problem in the program, you can buy the failed market before disclosing the vulnerability. And so like, there is something for everybody, kind of, I think, and that's super interesting.
Yeah, what I like about it is also that, for example, I mean, it's election period in many places of the world right now, and one of the problem I think with classical governance is that like smallholders don't really matter. Like you can express yourself, but it may not have an impact on the larger process. With futarchy, you can at least like save yourself in a way. Like if you know something is wrong or if you know something is right, you can at least either like get your exit ticket at a right price or manage to like materialize your opinion in a way. And like having a governance process that makes it worthwhile for all kind of holders, large and small, it makes it worthwhile for them to participate. It's just a really great, I think, feature to making it worthwhile is just good. But as you said, you need to have an edge, extra information, or a strong opinion on something, strong conviction that something should or should not pass to make it worthwhile to express it. But if you do, then you have an option, which is not the case in many governance systems.
Yeah, what's super helpful to me is to think not if I want it to pass or not, but how much it's worth if the proposal were to pass. And that's what I used to like a lot with limit orders, that you can make up your mind about how much the valuation should be and put the orders and forget about it. Because if I try to see if it should or shouldn't pass, most of the time I end up not being anchored to a kind of valuation model, but more to emotions or things like that. And actually, in the first UI, there was kind of light, easy mode, which didn't work too well because it was hard to make something that's compelling for the average user, and most of the time was not focused on improving that because most of our users were pretty, how you say that, market literate or like professional, almost professional, yeah. Like they were nerds, market or kind of market nerds, yes. So it was not very useful for them, but in the future that would be cool if that come back. I wanted also to ask, so right now you're a bit less active, right? Is there a reason for that, and do you plan to come back later?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I did a PhD and finished around March of this year. But I was also working in parallel on another project, and I kind of needed to refocus and like focus on this project because we have some big stuff coming on. This has nothing to do with crypto, but my engagement for on this project should be ending around the end of the year, and I've been thinking about futarchy and metadao a lot since I started joining it, and obviously want to get back to futarchy, get back to metadao. I don't know how. I can't predict the future. I don't know where the DAO will be, how it will operate. But I also know that metadao is in a way by essence grassroots compatible. I know that there's just so much stuff to be built around the futarchy, and a lot of experiments that I want to do. I think you could apply futarchy to so many more projects, just spreading futarchy in pretty much everywhere there is governance on Solana and maybe elsewhere. So I will definitely be coming back to futarchy, that's for sure. I will hopefully be back to metadao. I'm trying to focus right now on something else. I accepted to do this interview because I think I like the series. I like the first few episodes that you put out. I like the idea. I like the effort, and I feel like it's nice to tell a side of the story that maybe most people don't know, or at least a different point of view. But yeah, trying to focus on something else right now. I feel like in the meme where there is a priest preaching and some ladies showing her butt just nearby. I don't know if you get the image, but that's kind of me and futarchy right now. But that's temporary, and by the end of the year, I'm going to be full-time crypto and will almost definitely be working with futarchy.
Nice. Okay, makes understood. And so, yeah, probably there will be a lot of things to build on top of futarchy. Excited to have you come back and take a swing at it. Do you have any idea what could be built on top of metadao or futarchy?
One, yeah, I mean, I think like the first step would be to just like evangelize more projects to just adopt futarchy and in their governance process. One, like, I haven't discussed the idea, it just seems nice to me. It's that like right now, all futarchy markets are have a base assets. So for example, Meta, you have Dean, Future, or whatever. And the quote asset is always USDC. And I've been thinking that, I don't know, having this strong dependence to USDC seems like suboptimal. Could be made better, and especially like a crypto at large lacks stable coins, I think, or at least decentralized stable coins. And I think it would be awesome to have some form of crypto, like Solana native decentralized stable coin hosted, promoted, or controlled by metadao and used in futarchy and futarchy market. Maybe like there are some interesting protocols. For example, I think the Curve USD uses. I find it like the protocol is, I think, interesting, and maybe it could be adapted to Solana. Maybe it could be integrated to. Like, that's just one idea that I had in mind recently. Is that like we should not be completely dependent on Circle to enable futarchy, which having a stablecoin, decentralized stablecoin would definitely help with that. And I think like the whole central banking that some stablecoin protocol do, like tinkering and tweaking interest rates and so on, parameters, could maybe be done with futarchy more efficiently. That's just my 2 cents.
That's super interesting. I think that would be a great experiment to run. I don't know how well it would work, but there've been some attempts in crypto to build also stablecoin that are backed by assets. Most of the time, it's crypto asset, but even I don't know if we can back them by real world asset. But you can imagine a stablecoin that's not pegged to the dollar one-to-one, but that try to be as stable as possible, and you can design some incentive around that, or you can just back it with other stuff. And we could do a whole podcast on that because it's a very deep rabbit hole. But that would be super interesting to use futarchy as a way to decide the different parameters of the algorithm you use, or the different composition of the asset you back the stable with. So okay, that's great idea. I can't wait for you to come and maybe you will have something else that will pop in your mind before, but if you do that, I'm super interesting to follow. Okay, we're closer to the end. Just a few last questions I wanted to ask. First, do you have a special thought on the state of crypto or markets today?
My thought on the state of crypto, I think it's honestly going great on a technical side, at least. Like there are for Solana, there has been many technical development, like many, like for example, recently I saw Tolly talked about running a Solana validator for less than $200 a month. Like that's like kind of the promise of Moore's law taking care of scaling that materializes in a way. But there are also like great technical developments. I've seen like ZK generalized compression, which is great. I mean, there's a lot of great things happening. Even if I'm not a large user or proponent of the modular stack, but it's also like creating a lot of block space, and I think that will be helpful once we reach a larger adoption. That's for technical side. On the cultural side, I think we are pretty much, in my opinion, we are pretty much still in some sort of bear market, like cultural market in a way. Like crypto has still a terrible reputation. There are still many projects that confirm this bad reputation, and they're still coming in. But at the same time, I think that's not like the ultimate problem.
I mean that there are still great people working on great problems that will at some point fade, like, or overshadow all the bad and scammy projects that there has been. But I think there are also, like, what I'm a bit worried about right now is the regulations that are becoming more and more hostile, I believe. Like, as French, I think MiCA is, although it's trying to do some great things, some nice things at least, like some part of the stablecoin regulation are very weird and generally hostile. So all in all, I think like the technical promise of crypto is slowly manifesting and slowly becoming a reality, and that's great. There's still a lot of progress to do on the public image, public relations, and that should at some point translate to more favorable regulations, I believe. I hope so, at least.
Yeah, I share a similar concern, but I think that that's a big rabbit hole too. What are your best and worst trades in crypto?
I honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, one of the things that I would classify as my best trade, I'm not, in terms of number, I'm not sure it is, but it feels like it. It was an NFT project on Ethereum called Loot, which was like white text on the black background about describing the loot of a role-playing game character, and it was from some person that did some cool NFT projects before, and I minted one and managed to buy one really cheap, and in the course of a few days, it's 100, like it multiplied by 100, and was like, okay. I did not get the craze, but well, I still managed to sold at the Pico top, which was like good enough for me at least. And worst trade, I would say one of my worst trade was going using leverage on Solana when it was around $30. I felt like we were close to the floor, I guess, on the way down after the 2022, 2021 peaks. But well, I was wrong, and FTX happened, and I got liquidated on what was a sizable amount of my crypto holdings, and since then I pretty much stopped touching any form of leverage, and I've been living a lot less stressful life ever since.
Yeah,
I learned a lesson.
Yeah, leverage is very dangerous. Okay, and do you have books that mark you when you grew up?
I'm not a big reader, so I wish I read more, but I can't find the time to do so right now. But one of the books I read recently, somewhat recently, at least 2 years ago, that I want to spread the good words about, is called "Land is a Big Deal and Why the Rent is Too Damn High." And that's a really good book. Nice, it's written in with a funny tone. It's not too serious, but it's talking about a very serious issue, which is why we should reduce, why we should focus the fiscal pressure on landowners, and why it would solve pretty much a lot of modern problems like homelessness, joblessness. Some part of climate change are caused by wasteful use of land, and that wastefulness would be reduced by implementing proper fiscal policies. And it comes with numbers, state-of-the-art analysis of how to best solve this issue, and it's a great book. I recommend everybody read it. Land is a Big Deal, from an author called Lars Doucet. Or for the more technical and economically versed person, I think you can also read, I think it's Progress in Poverty from Henry George, which Land is a Big Deal is a sort of analysis, let's say, and modern reframing.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing this with us, and thank you for coming, telling us your story. And I think that's super interesting. Even myself was there. I didn't know everything. I learned some stuff, and that's cool to remember how in the early days the project coalesced. And when you look back, I think it's been like 6 months, something like that. It's kind of well, even though Prophet started working more than a year ago, and it's wild what was achieved in just 6 months. And I have no idea, but in 6 months from now, it's probably going to say the same thing. So yeah, it's a really, really cool experiment, futarchy. Anyway, thanks a lot, Dode, for joining us today. And see you soon.
Having me. See you soon. Hopefully by the end of the year, I will be able to focus on something else, and especially futarchy and metadao.